I would just like you guys to know that for the longest time, I considered whether I could even do this review sitting down, because I have finished my copy of Empire and Storms. I actually finished it the first day, so this video is a little late, but you know, whatever. I finished it in one sitting, and it was amazing, and just as like a reaction to the book as a whole, when I finished this book, I put it down, I sat there on my bed, and I just made this face. For a really long time. And then I had to go down for dinner, and I walked down into the kitchen going, and people were trying to talk to me, and I'm sure they were saying really, really important things, but I had just finished Empire of Storms, and nothing else mattered. If you thought that waiting for Empire of Storms after Queen of Shadows was really, really hard, the ending of this book will kill you. I don't even know what to say, and I am going to talk about the rest of the book, I promise, but just, oh my god, guys, everything exploded. I just, but backing it up. This book adds in some new point of views that we didn't get last time, like Lorcan, actually, which is really interesting. A lead is still a POV character, of course, Selena, Rowan, Adian. It's really interesting how they all interact. I think one of my favorite things about this series as it's progressed is that it's expanded as Aylin's world has expanded, and at one point in here, Adian talks about how it's been really hard for Aylin to learn how to delegate and not do things on her own, and I think that as Aylin has learned that, the point of views in the book have expanded. And I learned to, I think if you saw that I don't really like the Manon parts in Queen of Shadows, and this book made me like Manon a bit more. I read her point of view sections and didn't feel the immediate need to skip them. She got very interesting very fast, and I really liked that. If there is one character who's getting really weird and confusing to me, it's Dorian. I don't quite understand this character arc, and I know that he just lost Sorsha, but and all of, like, you know, the possession stuff, I mean, that's pretty rough, but I was really confused by some of his actions in this book, and I just kind of went, but that's beside the point. Dorian at this point is playing second fiddle to the main characters of this, which are Aylin and Rowan, and let me just say that this book has a warning on it that it has material in it not suited for children. That is correct. I thought that A Court of Thorns and Roses was going to be the series where she wrote all the smut and kept this one, you know, young adult more-ish, whatever that means. It's not. Let me tell you that if you are excited for several different couples in this series, then you're going to be real excited. So if you are someone who only reads clean books, I'm sorry, but please don't read this unless you are interested in doing this. So there is that warning. The plot for these books has also gotten so much bigger, and the world has gotten so much bigger, and one of the things that I really love is that this war, this magic being, isn't just attacking one country or one continent. There are multiple continents involved, there are multiple big players involved, and I feel a lot of times, especially in young adult fantasy, that, you know, they keep this huge world destructive force to one place and don't think about how it probably affects other places in the world. And this book, in this series in particular, has, again, with the characters, gotten a lot wider, and to the point where, you know, she hops from country to country. There are world powers involved. She's making alliances with, you know, kings and queens and, you know, all of these people who play into the larger world. It's one of the few times where the map in the front of the book really means something other than to orient you in the particular country. You have to follow the journey throughout the different countries and continents, and I really like that because it just seems more real, and it makes the threat of what's happening seem more like really world-ending doom, as opposed to just like, this guy wants to destroy our one place, and like, maybe he'll go on to others, but we won't talk to them because it's not, you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem that important when it isn't global, but you're saying global doom. Anyways, not in this book. And we're getting very interested into the mythology. Obviously, since Elena started to appearing to then Selena in the first book, you've known there's been like a kind of afterlife gods kind of thing involved. Bloodlines stem from Mal the Firebringer, stuff like that. But all of a sudden we're seeing how those things really interact and what place those gods really have in the world. And I like that. I liked it a lot. Even when I thought that these books couldn't get more involved and go deeper, they do. When I think they can't get wider and more involved, they do. And I really love that. I love seeing a series that has obviously been thought out from top to bottom, and so much effort and thought and love has gone into creating a global scale, a divine scale, a human scale, and everything. And on the human scale part, I think some of my favorite parts in this are just the parts where Aelin's court are just being friends. I think that even though there is a focus on romance in these books for now, that there is also an equal emphasis on the friendship between people who are not romantically involved. And there's this one really great scene where they're all just hanging out, and it's started by Lysandra and Aedion, but like they kind of end up having to go through the whole house and just waking people up, and just like Dorian putting a pillow over his face and like Aelin shucking one out. It's just funny, and you definitely get the sense that not only do certain characters love one other person, but they really all love each other, and they're willing to go to bat for each other, which is fabulous and wonderful, and I like it a lot. If I have one not so great comment about the way that the plot of these books is going, it's that with the addition of more and more POVs is the fact that a lot of Aelin's plans get hidden from you. So she's planning all of these really crazy things, and or things that she's doing, and you don't see them because while she's doing them you happen to be inhabiting a different POV, and that's very purposeful so that there can be a big reveal later on. And that worked for me in Queen of Shadows. There is one particular point towards the end of this book where it does not work for me. I think that there would have been a lot more discussion from several main characters about what happened, because more than one of them was involved. And so when it is this big reveal in the end, I was just confused, and I really wanted to know how several characters agreed to what happened. But I mean, if I only have that one issue with this book, then I really can't complain, and it sets up the end of this book and the plot that Aelin set in motion. So I mean, it had to happen. I just think that it could have happened a bit smoother, but you know, maybe I'm just angry because I didn't see it. And if you've read this book, you probably know what I'm talking about, because it happened and I wanted to see it. I did rate this book 5 stars. Not sorry. I am contractually obligated, I think, to rate everything Sarah J. Maas writes 5 stars, because I love her so much, and I based my thesis around these books, and I just really love this series, and I love that for everything that I have already loved with every book, she brings out something new about her writing or about the world that I love. And I love that everything is always action happening, but at the same time, personal relationships aren't left aside, and those personal relationships aren't just romantic. Like I said, I love romance. I do, but I also really think that for a book this involved with different relationships, that it has to establish friendships, and Sarah has not let that be left aside. That is very much a focus, you know, as with the romance. And as with the romance, hello. I do want to take a second to address some controversy that came up around Empire of Storms, and I found out about it because while I was waiting for my copy to arrive, because it didn't arrive until like 3 on Tuesday, I was trolling Tumblr tags to see, you know, people's reactions and stuff like that, and I all of a sudden found all this Sarah J. Maas hate, and it revolved around the fact that, and if you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to turn this off. It's not really a spoiler because I'm not going to talk about plot points, but like, you know, this is a mini spoiler-ish thing. It revolved around the fact that Chaol is not in this book. He and Nesrin have gone elsewhere to try and heal Chaol, because if you remember at the end of Queen of Shadows, he ended up in a wheelchair, and so people were saying that her not involving him in this book was just her removing her only disabled character, which is false on the first count because Elite is also a disabled character. Her leg is made a great deal of from the second that her character is introduced. She is almost caught in this book because her limp makes her very recognizable because of her leg. So that wasn't her removing Chaol for the fact that he was in a wheelchair. When you read this book, it makes sense why he's not involved, why he doesn't get a POV chapter or anything, because even though the POVs keep switching around, they ultimately are people who are involved in this particular plotline of Aylin's, and even like characters who aren't with Aylin in the beginning of this book, like Elide, like Lorcan, their actions and the events that they participate in wrap into the larger plot that Aylin is participating in. And so Chaol, where he is right now, none of that has a direct impact on the main driving plot of this book. And so putting in chapters for him or for Nesrin just would have been very disconnected, and that threads would not have led back to like the climax of this book like every other chapter in here does. And Chaol is also getting his own novella about the time that he's there and wasn't in this book. So Sarah has not forgotten him. She has not sidelined him. He just, for his character's purpose, didn't fit in to this book because of where he is and what he's doing. I'm sure 100% that he will figure into the next book because he's doing something very important in this book that will set up something in the next book. But he was not sidelined because he was disabled, in my opinion. So you are, of course, you know, if you want to argue with that with me, if I've missed something, please let me know. I don't want to be just standing up for Sarah, you know, ignorantly, but as a writer, that is my feel of why Chaol's chapters aren't in this book, and it makes sense on a logistics writing level. And again, she has his novella coming. She has not forgotten him. So that's my particular feeling on the subject. I am not going to make it until the next book. I was really hoping that my shock coma after I finish this book would just hold until the next book comes out, but it didn't. Obviously, I'm making this review, and because I really love this series. I really love the characters. I really love the plot. I love everything so much, and I was so scared for this book because, in my opinion, I don't think that Sarah has written a bad book yet, and I was convinced that that couldn't hold out. But so far it has, and I'm so excited. I don't know how to handle the fact that both, like, the end of the series is coming. I'm not emotionally ready for that, but this book wrecked the emotions that I had left, so maybe that was a good thing. thanks, guys. If you've read this book, please, please talk to me. Maybe not in the comments if you want to talk about spoilery things, but I don't know anyone else right now who has finished this book and who loves this series as much as I do. So please talk to me about it. Please find me on Twitter, find me on Facebook. All those links are down below. Even if it's just to message me with like a scream, I will understand what you mean and we can talk about it. So yeah. I'm gonna go like pet this book some more and just maybe reread it again because, oh my god, guys, I just love it. I love it so much. Have a good day, guys. Bye.